I have a remarkable case study for you as Rahu moves into Gemini and Ketu into Aquarius. We see the releasing of the Mueller report, so check this out. So we are here. I'm making this sort of extemporaneously. And we see that the Mueller report was just released here on Friday, March 22nd, 2019. This is a remarkable case study, and it's going to show several things that I've been using in my practice forever, and that really brings home a lot of ideas. By the way, these were in my 2019 forecast and my Rahu and Ketu forecast that you should get. I'll put links in the video so that you can see those. But it shows a couple principles. First of all, it's very much a sidereal zodiac case study, right? Because, of course, this is all based on the sidereal zodiac. When planets change signs, of course, when the nodal axis shifts, that's going to shift a lot. And of course, as I've said many times, that recently in the last few years with Zodiac issues coming up, I've been tracking these things for 15 years and doing updates, forecasts like this. So when people say, why don't you do forecasts and read charts to show the Zodiacs? I do it all the time. Here's a perfect example. Those of you who've been watching my videos, even for the last few months or year or whatever, know that I've been saying now for months that when Rahu goes into Gemini and Ketu into Sagittarius, it's going to show a return to bringing out new information. And I've even said specifically that things like the Mueller report and the beyond all of the kind of fake news propaganda stuff, we're going to get the data, we're going to get the details. So we're going to see what Mueller has figured out. We don't really know what it is. It might implicate I'm sure it's going to be implicit in some things because there's already been convictions. There's already been all kinds of stuff that's happened. But aside from that, again, the Mueller report is just one thing. And I'm using this case study to show that we're starting a new era where there's going to be massive disclosures on all levels, not just with the Mueller report. But again, this event is indicating this shift that I've been talking about. By the way, we should also understand that there are investigation after investigation now in House and Senate and whatnot into the president and all that stuff. Again, all of this is going to be accelerating more, and we're going to be polarized even more around what data we listen to, what details we follow, but we're going to see massive disclosures of information and facts. And that includes for many liberals, and again, people project onto me that I'm definitely more toward liberal policies and people being inclusive and whatnot, but all of the radical left-wing liberal, the sort of, neoliberal, everything is, that sort of extreme faction, they're also going to be probably greatly disappointed with what's coming out in the Mueller report, and they should be. They've gone too far. It's not like I've thought that he would be convicted in this regard, but definitely, there's more danger, like, for example, with things in the Southern District of New York and other things. But people who've been pinning all their hopes on the Mueller report thing, for example, are going to be disappointed. They're going to get that fact hammer dropped on them. This factual thing that they were hoping was going to get rid of Trump. No, it's not going to be that easy, no matter what. We've already seen the sort of hammers drop in that regard as well, with the Nancy Pelosi saying there's no reason to be doing impeachment right now. A lot of the, radical left wing hasn't liked that. Now we have the Mueller report about to come out. It's going to have some stuff in it, but it's not going to be the kind of feverish dream that the left had hoped for. Of course, there's all kinds of other stuff still going on, and that's what Rahu going into Gemini is going to signal. But first, right on the edge of all of that, we see right now, this was done at So this was at about 3 p.m. Pacific time here on February 22nd. Look, Rahu is at like 0003 of Cancer. In case you don't know what that means, it means it's about 9 hours from entering Gemini. If we move this forward several hours, make sure it's set up, birth chart. Okay. So watch as it moves several hours. 2, 1, 0, boom. Okay, so this is at about 2 a.m. March 23rd. So again, how many times have I said Rahu moves into Gemini March 23rd, March 23rd? In my 2019 forecast, in my Rahu and K2 forecast, I talked about this being the time when we're going to start seeing some major shifts happening around data, disclosures, information, seeing the facts, seeing the truth. It's just starting again. And what's the first thing that happens out within hours? The Mueller report gets released, which has been a work in progress for about 2 years, right? Right on the brink of that. Now this by no means it's the end of anything. It's going to show jockeying, it's going to show rhetoric, it's going to show a lot of communication about these things. All of these things are Gemini themes. Rahu is very powerful in Gemini. So it's going to reveal both. It's going to reveal the radical left, the radical right. It's going to show what Mueller actually discovered through all of the subpoenas and all of the indictments that followed. Again, it's also going to refer to other things that are not part of the purview. So again, aside from the logistics of that, and by the way, don't get triggered politically. I'm not advocating one or the other here. I have views, but that's not really the important part here, okay? The important part for me and for why I'm making this video is the remarkable case study. This is a 1.5-year cycle that hours before the shift shows this major demarcation in our public discourse and directly related to the themes I'm talking about. Now, of course, this is totally zodiac dependent. This is sidereal Gemini, okay? Again, those who are saying, well, why don't you do case studies? Do it all the time. Here's a perfect example of what I'm talking about, okay? Perfect example. Several years ago when Rahu went into sidereal Leo, just barely, that was when we had the Iran nuclear deal, and I did a case study on the recurrence transit of Rahu-Jupiter. Again, I do it all the time. So if you're wondering, go back and look through my videos at case studies, and you'll see me doing these things constantly, okay? This also illustrates two other principles. One is the true node, not the mean node. Because using the mean node calculation, which estimates the aggregate movement, using the mean node, Rahu entered a couple weeks ago, right? That's when it entered sidereal Gemini a couple weeks ago, right? Using the true node calculation, it's right now. Okay, so this is another reason, case study, literal case study, not just, well, I believe this. Here's why I believe it. I don't believe anything. I test things. Nothing I think is belief. I don't care if it's written in a text or not. And I know there are textual references to mean node, but again, the mean node calculation is definitely one where I think they didn't have the sophisticated astronomy yet to calculate it, because it's based on this complex calculation between the orbits of the sun, moon, and earth. And we've really only started to understand that in greater detail the last couple hundred years, if not the last 100 years. I don't know the history of astronomy, but we've only been able to really calculate that exact true node with ultimate precision, you know, at least within the last 100 years, I'm pretty sure. You can correct me on that. I haven't researched every single thing. I researched the result, though. And this true node calculation I find to be much more reliable, especially for precise things like this. Again, it doesn't mean that people are using the mean node or wrong, because, again, anecdotally, it could be better in other situations. And just off the top of my head, I would say that perhaps in a natal chart, for example, and maybe as it relates to things like, you know, certain karmic tendencies or whatever, maybe the mean node would be better. I don't know. I'm just offering this. I don't really know because I haven't delineated the two. But by transit and using my transit work, there's no doubt that I find the mean node to be much more accurate in real time, especially for events. I will go that far. That's certainly been my research. I'm also totally open to other people's research, and I'd love to see it. But this is a great example, not only of that, but also of Lahiri Ayanamsha. And again, this is one of the reasons why, after a lot of research, and again, this is research constantly on these things, I find Lahiri to be, again, nothing is perfect. Nothing is ever perfect. But I find it to be more correct than other Ayanamshas. And I experimented with other Ayanamshas that placed, see, because the issue with the Sidereal Zodiac is the fact of where do you begin it, right? And it's not even a controversial view that the main reason the Zodiac was anchored on the vernal equinox was not because, it really wasn't even because of the sort of metaphoric resemblance to the seasons, which again is quite flimsy because then that's totally based on the hemispheres, right? The main reason, when you look and see, the moment that the vernal equinox became the standard, which was in Persia around the 9th century, it was mainly to stabilize the calculation. It was mainly to say, okay, here's the starting point. We're going to start it here. Because where exactly is the sidereal 0 point? And this is the issue with the sidereal zodiac. It is a real issue. It's not like it isn't. So we have to decide exactly where it is. Now again, all of the Ayanamshas are very close. They're usually within, a couple seconds or minutes, however you want to equate these degrees of arc. Right? They're usually they're certainly less than 1 degree. They're all right around that sort of moment. You can fix it on Chitra Paksha, which is what Lahiri is, but exactly where do you put it? Where exactly do you put the Chitra Paksha astronomically, and then it's opposite that. You could put it in Pusha, is another one. Where exactly is the end of Revati? All these things are indicated. I found, at least, that the most stable, consistent calculations that I've seen are using Lahiri and then, for example, Truna. And again, the ecliptic longitude, not equatorial longitude. There is a whole bunch of factors that one has to settle upon after researching it. All of that's there. I would never say that another person's method of working is wrong. And that includes people that want to use the tropical zodiac. That includes people that want to use tropical rashis and sidereal nakshatras. They can do it. But it also doesn't mean that that's the way it was done. It also doesn't mean you can say anything you want and make up anything you want. Those are the issues when someone does that, which I don't want to get diverted, but all of that is in the mix. I'm open to whatever anybody is doing. I'm just not open to a lot of things that are wrong and confusing people and just making things up. So again, what we grapple with as in a scientific way as an astrologer is what's the collection of calculations that you use. Again, there might be someone who uses the mean node, and maybe they use the mean node because it's more accurate with the Ayanamsha. Perhaps they use the Pushya Paksha Ayanamsha, or the things that they use to calculate that collection of minute tweaks works best in their system. I used to do it as well, right? So again, these are all the things that are interesting. What's not interesting are the stupid debates, frankly, because there's really nothing that's that debatable. It's a very clear lineage and very clear history of what they were doing back then. And debates about who was right or wrong and all this, especially when it's not really connected to facts, is the part is sort of frustrating, and that's getting worked out as well. But the point is that one of the reasons why it's hard even to test things like this is you can say, well, bring up 2 charts and then analyze them and see which is better. Look, anyone who is working within a system, and again, this also includes people that are using tropical rashis and sidereal nakshatras, they're going to be able to make their system look perfect, and that's fine. Again, no one should have a problem with that. And I don't. I don't have a problem. I'm sure that that's how they get the best answers. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing that. But that's not even the issue. The issue isn't that for you it works better, for example. It's what's happening in order to support that? Is there a lot of things that are confusing people? Those are the issues. So this is just a very good case study, though, that within hours of Rahu moving into Gemini, again, this is all sidereal, Lahiri, true node. Within hours of this year-and-a-half shift, you see such a break, such a major revelation and disclosure that is totally congruent with what the action is. It's not disputable. You can't say, oh, well, you're just making that up. No, and in fact, especially since I've been saying it for about 6 months or something, I've been talking about the shift of Rahu in the Gemini, bringing the facts, where we're going to get a lot of information, where we're going to be able to see the facts, right? Again, you also have to understand, I'm excited about, I'm as excited about these kinds of things as anybody. I'm still incredibly shocked when astrology works this well. I still can't believe it, frankly. And it just reinforces what I'm doing, at least, but I'm also ready to have it, unenforced. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But when I see things like this, it's like, man, it's incredible how precise the sky is. And again, this kind of examination, I'm starting to be a lot more intentional about it now, because there's so much contentiousness around, again, all the Zodiac stuff and arguments and debates, which, again, those who are having it should back it up. Go ahead and back it up. Go ahead and back up whatever you're doing. The thing that's frustrating, frankly, from my point of view, is just endless opinions and theories, and really never any case studies. Let's see the case study of why, Revati is in Aries. Let's see all the case studies. Let's see how all this works, which is great. It would be beneficial for everybody. I definitely do it all the time. And here's a perfect example of why I've always seen, and I've been doing this, again, I started with Western astrology and tropical zodiac. So it's not like I was, not indoctrinated into something else. I've already gone completely upside down over it. But again, the whole thing that, that somehow this is just some belief in some tradition, this has totally been tested. And again, I've been doing daily forecasts, tracking this stuff every day for about 12 years. And again, people who know my work know this. I've had a member site that gives daily forecasts. I had a website called My Daily Astrology. Now it's the Astrology Training Lab, because there's more trainings. But a feature of that is a daily forecast, tracking sidereal rashis, nakshatras, and talking about these things all the time. I've been doing these sidereal, Lahiri-based sidereal updates for 12, 15 years now. I started in 2004 in my practice, and I started doing daily updates at least 2006. I got on YouTube as soon as it started, 2007. So that's 12 years. And the first things that I did were daily forecasts. So anyway, it's not just about me, but I'm just showing you that this is an amalgam and an aggregate of research I've been doing now for a long time. And this is a perfect example of what I see all the time. This is a big one, but even just when planets move from one into the next, bang, you see something shift right away. I did an update like right after the election in November, where there was a whole new kind of breed came in. This was right after Jupiter went into sidereal Scorpio. Again, bam. So anyway, I think this is an amazing case study. And again, it shows several things. Sidereal Zodiac, Lahiri Namsha, and True Node all kind of converge right at this point. And again, this sort of precision, it still surprises and delights me. So I hope it surprises and delights you as well. So if you want to see the 2019 free forecasts and the Rahu Ketu free forecasts, there's links below the video, and we'll talk at some point real soon.